Hit subscribe, join the family today. Something exciting is coming at 1,000 subscribers. Imagine standing in a room full of the toughest warriors in the country, 200 Navy SEALs. And the moment you walk in, every single one of them rises to their feet. Now imagine your own brother, the man who mocked you your whole life, standing right there, watching it happen. This is the story of Rachel Monroe, a woman her family called the Quiet One, a woman her own brother once said would never amount to anything. And this is the story of the one night that proved him wrong, in front of everyone he loved. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll understand why some victories are worth waiting 20 years for. Rachel grew up in a small town in Ohio, the middle child in a family that never quite noticed her. Her older brother, Derek, was the golden child. Loud, confident, always the center of attention at every family dinner. Her younger sister was the artistic one, praised for every drawing and every school play. Rachel was just there. She was quiet. She read books. She liked structure and discipline. At 18, while Derek was heading off to a business degree their parents bragged about to every relative, Rachel signed her enlistment papers for the United States Navy. Nobody clapped. Nobody cried with pride. Her mother just sighed and said, "Are you sure that's really for you?" Derek didn't even look up from his phone. He just muttered, "Have fun playing soldier." That line stuck with Rachel for years. Not because it hurt in the moment, she was too determined for that, but because it planted a question in the back of her mind. A question she promised herself she would answer, not with words, but with results. The Navy was hard, brutal at times. Rachel went through training that broke stronger-looking recruits. She didn't just survive it, she excelled. She was sharp, calm under pressure, and had a mind for strategy that officers noticed early. Years passed. While Derek climbed the corporate ladder, posting vacation photos and bragging about bonuses at every holiday gathering, Rachel was deployed. Twice to dangerous waters. Once to a classified operation she still can't fully talk about. She earned commendations. She earned respect. She earned rank. But at home, none of that mattered. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, the conversation always circled back to Derek's promotions, Derek's new car, Derek's engagement. When someone politely asked Rachel how the Navy was going, Derek would cut in with a smirk. "She still does that? I figured she'd be done playing dress-up by now." Everyone laughed. Rachel smiled along because that's what you do when you've learned not to expect anything different. The real wound came 5 years ago, at their father's retirement party. Rachel had just been selected for a major promotion, one of the youngest officers in her class to reach that rank. She hadn't told the family yet. She wanted to share the news quietly over dinner just between them. Instead, Derek stood up in front of 40 relatives, tapped his glass, and gave a toast about his real accomplishments, the house he bought, the deal he closed, the life he built. Then, almost as an afterthought, he turned to Rachel and said the words that would echo in her mind for years. And of course, we have Rachel here still doing her little Navy thing. Hey, no shade, but let's be honest, nobody really cares about that stuff. It's not like it changes anything out here in the real world. The room went quiet for a second, an uncomfortable, pitying silence. Then someone changed the subject, and the moment passed for everyone, except Rachel. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She simply nodded, finished her drink, and made a private decision that night. She would never again explain her career to people who had already decided it didn't matter. She would let her work speak, someday, on its own terms. Rachel poured herself into her career after that night. She stopped attending family events unless absolutely necessary. She stopped sharing updates. She let her silence do the talking. Meanwhile, she was quietly becoming one of the most respected officers in her fleet, trusted with responsibilities that most people never even hear about, leading sailors who would follow her into anything. 2 years ago, she was formally selected for promotion to flag officer, one of the rare few women in Navy history to reach that level. The ceremony date was set for a base on the East Coast, and, per tradition, officers were allowed to invite close family. Rachel almost didn't send the invitation. But her commanding officer, a woman who had mentored her for a decade, gave her a piece of advice she never forgot. You don't invite them for closure, Rachel. You invite them so the truth finally stands in the room with you. So Rachel sent one invitation. To her brother Derek. No explanation. Just a date, a location, and instructions to arrive by 10 in the morning. Derek almost didn't go. He assumed it was some small office gathering, a certificate handed out in a conference room. He told his wife he'd swing by for an hour, mostly out of guilt. He wore jeans to what he thought was a casual event. When he arrived at the base, he was stopped at the gate, checked against a list, and escorted, not casually but formally, toward an auditorium. Flags lined the walls. Uniforms filled the seats. This was clearly not a small office gathering. He found a seat near the back, confused, watching officers and enlisted sailors quietly take their places. Then a voice came over the speaker system, calling the ceremony to order, and Derek felt his stomach drop as he realized just how large and how serious this event actually was. That is when the doors at the front of the hall opened. Rachel walked in wearing her dress uniform, new stars gleaming on her shoulder boards. And the moment she crossed the threshold, 200 Navy SEALs and support staff in that auditorium rose to their feet in respect. Not because they were told to, not out of obligation, because that is what happens when a leader who has earned it walks into the room. A senior commander's voice rang out clear and firm, "Admiral on deck." The room fell into complete, disciplined silence, every person standing at attention. Derek sat frozen in his seat, the only person who hadn't stood, because he hadn't even understood what the words meant until the man next to him quietly whispered, "That's your sister?" Derek looked at the woman walking down the aisle, poised, respected, commanding a room full of some of the most elite warriors in the world, and for the first time in his life, he had absolutely nothing to say. Rachel never once looked his way with anger. She didn't need to. The ceremony continued, and her commanding officer read her service record aloud. The deployments, the operations she'd led, the lives she had helped protect, the trust an entire branch of the military had placed in her judgment for over a decade. Every word was a quiet, devastating answer to the sentence Derek had spoken at their father's retirement party. Nobody really cares about that stuff. 200 people in that room cared enough to stand for her. An entire nation's defense had, in some small way, rested on her shoulders. After the ceremony, Derek approached her, visibly shaken, searching for words. He didn't apologize right away. He just said, "Rachel, I had no idea." And Rachel, calm as ever, gave him the only response that mattered. "You never asked." There was no shouting match, no dramatic confrontation. Rachel didn't need to humiliate her brother the way he had humiliated her for 20 years. The truth standing in that room had already done more than any argument ever could. In the weeks that followed, Derek reached out several times, awkward at first, trying to rebuild a bridge he had spent years quietly burning. Rachel let him. Not because she forgot what he'd said, but because she had already won the only battle that mattered, the one inside herself, the one where she stopped needing his approval to know her own worth. Today, Rachel continues to serve, mentoring young officers who remind her of herself at 18, quiet, underestimated, and full of potential nobody else can see yet. She tells them the same thing her commanding officer once told her. Let your work answer the people who doubted you. You don't owe them an argument. You owe yourself a life you're proud of. This story isn't really about the Navy, or a ceremony, or even about Derek. It's about every person who has ever been the quiet one in the room. The one who gets overlooked at family dinners while someone else takes the spotlight. The one whose dreams get dismissed with a smirk and a careless comment. If someone in your life has made you feel small, remember this. You don't have to prove anything to people who never believed in you in the first place. Just keep building, quietly and steadily, the life you know you're capable of. Sooner or later, the truth has a way of standing up in a room, whether anyone else claps for it or not. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And remember, the loudest person at the table isn't always the one who ends up winning.